Back for another edition of In the Huddle. Carl Dukes, put him up along with my man Brian Baldinger. And of course, you get a chance to check out Baldy on NFL Network. Check out his breakdowns as well. Baldy's breakdowns, man. I look forward to it each and every week. But Baldy, we're here. It is game night, guys. We are recording this podcast on the start of the NFL season. It is Thursday. We've got Chiefs, Lions tonight. And we'll talk about the game coming up here in a second. But we got to start, Baldy, with the conversation we've been having all offseason, and that is what was going to happen with the Bosa situation with the 49ers. Yesterday, he gets the richest deal in NFL history for a defender. A lot of people are saying, hey, the 49ers caved. Baldy, I don't see it that way. I think he's such an important part of their team and what they do, and he's a great player. This is the market, right? I mean, it's not about whether he's better than someone else. This is what the market is.
So I think I said it on this, on one of our podcasts, Carl, but I know I said it in San Francisco last week. I just didn't understand why it even took this long. I mean, the 49ers have recognized whether it was Trent Williams, highest paid left tackle in football, whether it's Christian McCaffrey, highest paid running back in the game, whether it was Fred Warner at the time, he was the highest paid linebacker when they signed him. It's since he's like 2 or 3. Kittle was the highest paid tight end. Like, they recognize their star players, and they paid for them, all of them. It helps that Brock Purdy's their quarterback, and he's playing on a 7th-round rookie contract.
Sure.
But this is who the 49ers are. They've got some of the best players, if not the best players, at a number of positions in this game, and they have rewarded all of them. And so, to me, Nick Bosa was the next guy. In fact, really, even in his injury-marred year 2 years ago, I mean, they were already planning that we got to pay Nick Bosa, and it's going to take probably the richest defensive lineman contract to get it done. And he makes everybody better. They went out in free agency, Carl, and they signed Javon Hargrave 5 minutes into free agency. And they said, we're going to put you right next to Nick Bosa. Like, let's go to work. Let's let these dogs eat. And so, look, it happens, I don't know, 5 days before their opener against Pittsburgh. He'll be in the lineup. I don't know that he'll play how many plays he's going to play, but he's going to play a lot. They're counting on him coming in to be in shape and teeing it up and going to beat a really feisty, good, talented Pittsburgh team. They need him in the lineup to do it. And so I just thought it was a matter of time. I was just, like I said, I was a little surprised it took this long. But you're right, Carl. This is just the price of doing business right now. And it helps that they found their quarterback in the 7th round. That will make paying these guys a little bit easier than it normally would if you had to go pay your quarterback a quarter of your salary cap.
You believe, at least I do, Baldy, this is their window because now you've locked up some of your key players. The defense is stout. Yep. And you're right. I mean, offensively, Debo, McCaffrey, all these guys. I mean, now is your window. If San Francisco's going to get to a Super Bowl, it's got to be here in the next few years while you're still paying Brock Purdy, pretty much nothing compared to what these quarterbacks are getting, even though, he's just got the job. It is 5 years, $170 million extension for Bosa, and $122.5 million guaranteed. So congratulations to Nick Bosa. I'm just curious to see how he balls out and what this looks like for the 49ers moving forward. The other thing we got to mention, of course, Baldy, tonight with the Kansas City Chiefs is Kelce's situation. Do you think Kelce plays tonight?
I don't think he's going to play. Winning week 1 doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I mean, for any team out there, like everybody wants to win, of course. Everybody's going to game plan to win in the Chiefs. But from a health standpoint, they get a mini bye here right off the bat. Like, whatever happened to Travis Kelce, like, he obviously is a key ingredient if they want to try to get back and win another Super Bowl. I mean, he's probably, after Mahomes, he's probably the most important guy they have. A couple things about it. You play Thursday night, you get 10 days to get ready for the next game. I mean, get them ready. Like, Travis Kelce doesn't need to be dragging that knee. Swollen, and his brother said there's no structural damage. We'll see about all that, but get the swelling out, get healthy, get back to being Travis Kelce in week 2. That's number 1. Number 2, I remember last year, Carl, I did the Chiefs opening game against the Arizona Cardinals, and the entire offseason, all we heard was the Chiefs will never be the same offense without Tyreek Hill. And they put up 42 on Arizona that day in their opener, and they could have scored 60. They took their foot off the pedal in the fourth quarter of that game. They could have kept going up and down the field on Arizona. Now, so that's that. But, Andy Reid is, he's in a category almost by himself when it comes to just game planning. And so I don't think Travis Kelce is going to be in the lineup. I think they will game plan around the loss of him. I think you'll see Jet McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco and Sky Moore. I think you'll see all these guys catch a lot of passes to make up for it. They'll miss him on third downs. They'll miss him in the red zone for sure. But they will game plan around the loss of Travis Kelce. And if Detroit's sitting back going, oh, we got this one, no Travis Kelce or no Chris Jones, like they're sadly mistaken because that's I just know Andy Reid. Look, they went to a Super Bowl with T.O., and they didn't know if he was going to play, not play. And he ended up playing, and they ended up losing. But the game plan was still really good. They just didn't execute it perfectly. But I just don't expect to see Travis. If he plays, it's just because the knee, that nobody believes that the knee is going to get worse by playing. That's, we saw Andy Reid take Patrick Mahomes out of a playoff game.
Yeah.
And he was dying to go back in. And he's like, not until we get you checked. We're not putting you on the field until we get you checked out. And so I feel like they're always going to err on the side of caution here. And to me, if there's any sort of chance that this thing could be worse by playing, there's no way we're going to see him tonight.
I think, Baldy, sometimes coaches have to protect players, right, from themselves, even if Travis wants to play. I know it's a big moment, right? They're dropping another banner. They're Super Bowl champs. It's going to be bananas as it always is in Kansas City. I get it. And he wants to be a part of that. But you're right. We got 17 more weeks. And I think, Baldy, to your point about the personnel, the Chiefs have enough, and this is no disrespect to the Lions, but they have enough to beat the Lions without Kelce. I mean, you don't have to force the issue. This is not a playoff game. This is not a win or go home situation. So, you see the number has gone down, guys. I will tell you, 2 weeks ago, it was Chiefs by 7. It's gone down because of the absence with Kelce to 4.5 points. I respect that because obviously the odds makers think that Kelce's worth 3, and that's a big deal.
Worth more.
I agree.
Probably is. Just with the way Mahomes constantly confined him, especially when he does the Mahomes act, which is extend plays, get outside of harm's way, and go. But we saw this offense run the ball down the Eagles' throats in the second half of a Super Bowl game to go take that victory away from the Eagles. And I think Isaiah Pacheco and Jet McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't know. I'd want to go see what Detroit looks like defensively if they can stop them from running the football. It's not what Andy Reid does. He likes to come out of the tunnel throwing it. I think he will, but, there might come a time in this game tonight where maybe running it is the best way to win a game without Travis Kelce.
Let me ask you about the Lions since we're talking about tonight's opener. It's Brian Baldinger, Carl Dukes. It's in the Huddle, guys. Subscribe, like us, tell your friends, and also follow us on YouTube at In the Pod, or In the Huddle Pod, should I say, and that way you don't miss any episodes. And by the way, Baldy was putting out this week, we'll do this throughout the course of the season, and we'll answer a few questions here at the end of the podcast today, but we ask you guys, hey, if you have a question about your team, your coach, your players, send it to us via X, which is Twitter, usually where we're at, and we'll get to those questions, guys, as the weeks go on. We'll certainly give you guys a shout out as well, so make sure you're doing that. As far as tonight's game on the other side, Baldy, what do the Lions have to do to win this game? Listen, if they win, right, everybody all of a sudden is going to buy in, and they're going to say, oh, the Lions go to the Kansas City Chiefs, they win, this is not a fluke, they're coming. But what do they have to do to get it done?
Well, so, look, Detroit finished strong last year. They finished up in Green Bay. They beat the Packers. They won 8 of the last 10 games. None of that matters. You have to become a confident football team to go on the road and win in Kansas City. And how do you get that confidence, Carl? You get that confidence by belief, but the belief comes from winning. Now, they haven't done anything this year. I know Kansas City is going to play well. I just know it because that's how they're coached, and they anticipate the way they train, the way they go through preseason. They'll play well tonight. I don't know if Detroit will because I don't know. You could go up there and Dan Campbell is he's got a dynamic personality in front of a room. Like, I get that, but you still have to go do it. And the players have to believe it. And the belief comes from going and winning in tough places. They haven't done that yet. Okay, winning Green Bay with a team that was going to divorce from Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. I don't know. Like, it wasn't a good season for Green Bay. I want to see, they got 2 new running backs. The running game is a dance, Carl. It's a dance. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they got to feel how it is with the offensive line. We know the line is good, but still the backs it's a feel thing. And they haven't really gone up against anybody yet. They're going to do that against Kansas City. And we just got to see what it looks like. But I don't think Detroit knows exactly how good they are, if they are good yet, until they start winning these games. And that's just that. And until you win Super Bowls and you're a perennial playoff team and all that, you don't know who you are. Everybody's anointing them, and I'm one of those people because I believe they have good talent. But you have to put it all together and execute. Third downs, red zone, you're kicking field goals or scoring touchdowns. You go for it on fourth downs because it's the right call, not because we're hoping that we're going to make it and we're going to extend this drive. Like, all those things have to get established by winning tough games in your division, on the road. And we don't know if Detroit is that. We know their history says they're not, but this is a new Lions team, and I'm willing to give them that sort of deference right here. But to me, they have to go do it. And it has to, all right, let's see how you execute in Kansas City in that atmosphere, offensively and defensively. Let's see you execute a 2-minute drill. Let's see you use the clock to your advantage. Like, all these little situational football things, let's see them go do it.
It is going to be an interesting first week, guys. And Baldy has, I think, one of the best games this week with the 49ers and the Steelers. And I want to take a look at this game, Baldy, because I like the Steelers so much. And I'm saying going into the season, after seeing their roster, after seeing how they performed, and Kenny Pickett is coming along, and seeing, George Pickens, and watching this team, and I'm going, are they going to sneak up on some people? Now, it sounds silly because it's the Steelers, and they're always competitive and good. But, people are looking at this division, and they're going Burrow. They're going, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And they're saying, hey, Deshaun Watson is back, and Cleveland is loaded. I don't know if anybody's looking at the Steelers and going, not only can they win this division, this is a playoff team. And I just wonder, from what you're looking at getting ready for the game on Sunday, what is the Steelers? What's the deal? It's always been defense and run game, right? But they've got to rely on Kenny Pickett to make plays as well. And I think he's come along. He's going to take the jump in year 2.
Well, look, Andy Weidel and Omar Khan have done a good job of rebuilding this roster. I mean, there was a big dip when Ben, was on his downside, and then, tried to play, and then you got the rookie, and there's Trubisky out there week 1 last year. I mean, this team, you got to think about this, Carl. The last time the Steelers won a playoff game, Kyle Shanahan wasn't in San Francisco. So we've seen a great deal of success from San Francisco with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. A great deal of success. So, and a lot of playoff wins. Like, Pittsburgh hasn't had that. Now they got to, they've got the right leadership. They got the right coach. They've got to put this together against a great defense in San Francisco. I mean, this is a titanic matchup. I think both teams are playoff teams, but somebody's going to lose Sunday. And, whether it's San Francisco or Pittsburgh, I don't know. But, somebody's going to lose this game, and they're still going to be a good team. If Pittsburgh wins it, it's just a confirmation of what you just said. Like, this is a really good total team that have upgraded in a lot of areas, and now they just proved it against what we know is a good football team. So, Kenny Pickett's in a big spot. Yeah, the preseason, 13 of 15, 200 yards, touchdowns in all his drives. It's good when you can just hand off to Jaylen Warren. He goes 62 yards, and that's a touchdown. But regardless, they've got some bona fide players here. Let's see how they play against a really, really great defense. I want to see what Pickens looks like against San Francisco with, Bosa and Hargrave and Armstead and Drake Jackson, like breathing down your neck. Let's see, what kind of decision making the quarterback makes.
TJ's healthy, right? I know you saw him. I know you guys kind of kicked it during camp as far as just getting caught up. He feels good. He looks good. You expect big things from TJ Watt this season?
Yeah, I do. It was just, it was an injury-marred season last year. It happens. It happens to, happened to Nick Bosa years ago. I mean, it happens to all these guys. You got to bounce back from it. But I think, with what they have up front with Cam Hayward, TJ, Highsmith, this rookie Herbig, Marcus Golden, they've got dogs up front. They've improved their linebacker core. I think it's the best linebacking core they've had in Pittsburgh in years. We'll see what the cornerback situation looks like. Levi Wallace, we'll see, exactly what Patrick P has, what he has left. They'll be challenged by Pittsburgh, or they'll be challenged by San Francisco for sure. So, but it looks like it's a defensive front that can compete with anybody. And we might see 2 of the 5 best defensive lines in all of football at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday afternoon.
As far as the 49ers, Baldy, and Baldy has this game, by the way, on Sunday, 49ers visiting Pittsburgh. Offensively, for the 49ers, I look at their skill guys, and I just kind of shake my head because they're nasty. I mean, McCaffrey is the guy that stirs the drink, obviously, but Samuel and Ayuk, and I'm thinking Kittle, and some people are saying Kittle's, he's falling off, and I'm going, what are you guys watching? I don't know what you're paying attention to. Baldy, that offensive from a skill set standpoint, are they the best in the league? When you start looking at that offense and from running back to the receivers to their tight end, it's pretty damn good.
They're good. They're really good. And Eli Mitchell's the backup to McCaffrey. They can play both those guys at the same time. They can always put Debo in the backfield, do a number of different things with him. They got a lot of versatile parts. We'll see if Kittle goes on Sunday. It's a little bit
questionable, right? He's questionable.
He's questionable, and it's a little bit like Kelce in Kansas City. It just doesn't make sense to push it. So the injury he has can be a little I don't know exactly the level of it, but it's one of those injuries that it doesn't get better necessarily by playing. It gets better by rest and treatment. So and George he's had his little knick-knack injuries over the course of his 7 years in San Francisco. They don't have to push it with him, but it's okay. They have enough around the quarterback. Look, this is, we're going to talk in large part at the Open about Kenny Pickett and Brock Purdy. Here's one guy was taken the 20th pick in the first round, and here's a guy that was taken the last pick in the 7th round. But it really doesn't matter. It's just a story. It doesn't matter where you get taken. All that matters is how you perform and how you execute what's asked of you, and then beyond that. And both of them did that last year. Pickett really played much better down the stretch, just the way we saw Purdy play great down the stretch. None of them have, neither one has started, 12 games yet. So we got to see how it looks. But it's a great contrast in these quarterbacks. Doesn't matter where you get them, as long as you get them, and as long as your players around that quarterback believe in them. And I believe both teams 100% believe in their quarterbacks.
Baldy, you've talked about the linebackers for the 49ers. We spent a lot of time last year on these guys. Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner. They both can run and make plays, right? I mean, are they still upper echelon when you talk about linebacking cores in the league?
I think they're as good as anybody. They're a zone team, and so they both have tremendous speed. They both diagnose very quickly. Sometimes they look like they're on blitzes, and it's just how quickly they read things. You got to put Hufanga down in the box because that's when he makes some really big plays when they drop, they drop Talanoa down there. They play, and when they do play man, and they want to blitz, and they blitz Fred Warner, and now Greenlaw's in man coverage on running backs or tight ends. He's basically as good as anybody. Their matchup zones, how they defer and how they go to the 3-man side, 2-man side, how they kind of delineate their what their duties are. I mean, they're as good as anybody. How they play together. I mean, they're exceptional, and they're fun to watch because they fly to the football.
As you guys see, Pittsburgh 2.5-point underdog at home as we're looking at this week. And of course, that the 49ers are a 2.5-point favorite on the road. It's going to be an interesting game, man. I cannot wait. It's in the huddle. Carl Dukes along with Brian Baldinger, Jason Canfora, part of this podcast as well, guys. And as we get ready for the first weekend of the NFL season, a lot of things are people are looking at games. They're looking at scenarios with teams. Tonight we get the opener, Lions Chiefs, and we talked about that. Baldy, I do want to spend a little time on the coaching situation. As we start the season, obviously Andy Reid's on top and the Super Bowl champion, but there are a lot of great coaches in this league, from Tomlin to Belichick, obviously Shanahan. You're going to see him on Sunday. But is there a guy that is going into this season with a little bit of pressure as we start the season, not as we get into it? Is there somebody that you go, hey, we're starting the season and they're looking at him? There's been this friction between, I think, Sean Payton and his quarterback, Russell Wilson. And the comment was interesting, is what he said about Russell. Stop trying to be a politician. Let's play football. I don't know what happens there, but is there a guy as we start the season that you're going, hey, there's a little pressure there?
Well, there's a couple places. Let's just go to the AFC West, because if Sean Payton turns this Denver team around, whether he does it with Russell Wilson or he goes to the backup there, like if he turns this thing around and they get competitive, they've lost, I think, 15 straight to Kansas City. Now, if they beat the Chiefs, if they're in the race in December, like hats off to Sean Payton. Like he's worth everything that they had to sacrifice to get him. I mean, that would be unbelievable for him to turn that thing around. The guy that has all the pressure on him right now, if there's such a thing, is Brandon Staley with the Chargers. There is just no more excuses with the Chargers. I mean, they've got a loaded roster. All right, they've addressed free agency. Eric Kendricks comes in. They go out and get themselves a number one wide receiver. They take care of the running back. They pay the quarterback. Like, you're going to line up with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa week 1 against the Miami Dolphins. Like, there's just no more excuses with the Chargers, period. I don't care who gets hurt, if they get hurt. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, they've got to win playoff games. To be up 27-0 and collapse like that, like that pain, if you're the Chargers, like you never forget that pain. And it never gets, it never goes away. Like I played for Tom Landry. The Ice Bowl game in Green Bay, the pain of losing that game on the quarterback sneak, it never went away from Tom Landry, ever. He always talked about that and how that was a defining moment in turning the Cowboys around. So I think if I just had to pick one guy, Brandon Staley's the guy right now. And of course, you're in Dallas, Mike McCarthy, like the spotlight's on. Yeah. Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. It just is. And so I would say those two spots, there's a big spotlight on both of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm curious to see how the Chargers start, because now you said it, they paid their quarterback. Herbert was going to get his. But if they start out slow for whatever reason, it's going to heat up. All right, let's talk a little bit about future projections. And we want to be clear here, guys. For Baldy and I, this changes week to week, okay? Literally. As we look at the season, and we'll come back every week, and we'll be talking about guys, and I'll say, Baldy, I can't believe I saw it. And he'll say, oh, I can't believe. Because guys elevate through the season, and some guys fall. And then as we get closer to the end of the season, you see and you truly know who the real potential defensive player of the year is, or the offensive player of the year. So we want to make sure we say that before we give these predictions, because we're a long ways away, but we're having some fun with this because at the start of the season, it's what we do. All right. With that said, let's talk about who you think is potentially first MVP, right? It's got to be Mahomes up there. Who's the other candidates? Are there distinctively 3 or 4 other guys that you truly believe, hey, they will be in the mix at the end of the season for MVP?
I'd say Joe Burrow. And I know he's missed preseason with a calf, but I think that team is like I'm picking Cincinnati to go to the Super Bowl and represent the AFC. They've been knocking on the door 2 years in a row. Obviously, they went 2 years ago, lost to Kansas City last year. But I just think Joe Burrow just has it. He's got the guts and the moxie and the toughness and the skill that is up there with anybody. And so I think, to me, Joe Burrow is, to me, number one. And look, you could give Mahomes the award every year, I think.
Sure.
But I'm going to say Joe Burrow is the league MVP right now. I expect big things from Cincinnati. Like, that team is just loaded. They're just loaded. They're loaded the way you have to be loaded, whether it's receivers or offensive line or defensive personnel, young in some spots, but a proven defensive coordinator. I'll just say Burrow right now is the MVP.
Okay. I think Jalen Hurts tasted it last year. And if he's able to put together a similar kind of season, okay, we know how good that roster is, Baldy, and I think their offense is better now. I think with what they've done, their offense is better, and Jalen doesn't have to do as much maybe as he even did last year. So I'm going to say Jalen Hurts.
Good choice.
We could choose, as Baldy said, we could choose Mahomes every year. It's like Jordan when he was in the league, you get handed to him. But there are other guys who will be worthy, and I do think the Eagles, one, will be good. Mm-hmm. Two, I think Jalen Hurts is going to put up big numbers, and if he does, he is going to be in this conversation at the end of the year.
Well, I had Jalen above Patrick Mahomes as the MVP of the league. People like said I didn't know what I was looking at until the injury against Chicago in Week 15 last year.
He was crushing it.
MVP.
He was crushing it.
To me, between the rushing touchdowns, the deep balls, the record, everything to me was about Jalen Hurts. Now, he got hurt and he missed a couple games, and Mahomes just won the Super Bowl. So I get Mahomes and worthy and deserving, but I had Jalen Hurts right there all year.
All right, we're going to take some questions here from some of our listeners in just a second. But before we do, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year. Do you have any idea where you're going with this right now? And again, guys, this is based on what we know, and we're going into the season, and we're projecting, and this will change. Halfway through the season, I'll ask Baldy and Jason, hey, well, where are we at? Who right now is the Offensive Player and Defensive Player of the Year? And I can guarantee you it probably won't be the same person. But let's give our viewers and listeners a chance to see what we think.
Well, I'll take Micah Parsons as Defensive Player of the Year.
Me too.
He's already said to me on national TV that he's going to get 2 interceptions this year. He does not have an interception the first 2 years, and the second interception ball is going to be signed and delivered to me. So I'm not, and that's not the reason why I'm choosing him. I just think that they have all these pieces around him right now. Mozzie Smith's going to make a difference. Stephon Gilmore's going to make a difference. Third year with Dan Quinn. I think it's set up for Micah to just rip off an MVP type performance and type of year. So I would say Micah defensively right now. And offensively, I don't know, be hard for me to say that you're going to get a better running back performance than Nick Chubb this year. He's dedicating the season to Jim Brown. I think he's highly motivated. He lays in the weeds in the background, but nobody has put up 5 yards a carry for 5 straight years in a row in this league. Jamal Charles did it, but he was hurt for a lot of those years. I just think Nick Chubb, and I think what Cleveland can do, I'll say Nick Chubb is the Offensive Player of the Year.
Baldy, I love both of those, and I really like Micah Parsons. He said, I'm tired of coming in second. and I loved that.
Answer.
It is. I love that quote. And he was like, I just want to take this thing to the next level. By the way, great kid, man. Great kid, man. I mean that, he's a young man, but we know he can play football at a high level, but he's a really good guy. And I love the way he put pressure on his teammates in camp. He was going, Baldy, you were there. He's going and getting after the quarterback, and they're like, hey, Micah, slow down, right?
You know who else did that and still does that? Aaron Donald. You talk to guys that have to go against, Aaron Donald in walkthroughs and on Friday practices, and you have to buckle it up. And I played with a guy in Randy White. He was the same way. There's just certain guys. Warren Sapp was like that throughout his career. There's just certain guys that when they step on a football field, it's just it's the funny games ended. Micah is a fun guy to be around. Yeah. He really is. And you see him at the Super Bowl, you see him in a public setting, you see him at a Sixers playoff game, whatever it is. He's a fun guy to be around. And he can cut it up with you and steps on the field now, it's just different. It's just some guys, they don't care about what they think, what other teammates think, or what. Some guys step on the football field between those lines, and now it's life and death. And that's kind of how they approach day to day. One thing Mike said to me, though, I was watching his YouTube clips of him in high school. He went to high school in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And, he was just a man amongst boys, when he was in high school. But he's been in Mike McCarthy's ear to play offense, whether it's receiving, handing it off to pitching it to him.
Wow.
I think we're going to see something this year from Mike on offense. It's going to happen. I don't know if it's just one play or if there's a little package, but I think you might see him on offense this year.
Man, I cannot wait, Baldy. I know you're going to have a great call in Pittsburgh. We will be talking about coming back next Tuesday, guys. All the things that happened. Jason and I are going to jump on Sunday evening and do a quick hit to just kind of recap what we saw and what we thought on Sunday evening after the 4 o'clock games, before we get to the 8 o'clock games. And so we're going to be here all year for you guys, and certainly we want you to be a part of it. In the Huddle, subscribe, In the Huddle Pod on YouTube. Follow Baldy, follow myself, follow Jason La Canfora. Make sure you're up on everything that's going on in the NFL. And thanks for participating. We'll do those questions every week, guys, as we'll start taking questions and seeing what you guys are thinking.
And I'll just say this, Carl, I will be breaking down this Chiefs-Lions game tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m.
Okay.
So Baldy's breakdowns, I'll flood it with the good, the bad, the ugly, the surprising things that you didn't see on the broadcast tonight. So they will be coming through on various platforms early tomorrow morning.
Awesome. All right, guys, enjoy the football. We've been waiting, and we get a chance to enjoy it this weekend. Baldy, have a great call. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys on Tuesday right here on In the Huddle.